What's up, folks? Welcome back to Keith and Mike Watch Strange New Worlds. We've arrived. We are here. We are here to talk about Subspace Rhapsody. Mike and I have not discussed this in any way, shape, or form, so I'm really interested to hear what he thinks and see how it merges with how I think. But I think if you don't know already, as we are about to talk about the musical episode, both of us are musical theater professionals. We have devoted our lives, our wives and ex-wives, our Broadway stars. This is our world. So we have a lot of feelings, I bet, all about this musical episode. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Keith. I'm going to really try not to spoil too much as we go through so it can be fresh, but I will say that one way or the other, I had a great time with this episode. And as I tried to share with the patrons as we were watching along, a little inside baseball about musical theater and the motivations for such and things. It was great that literally, and I mean this, and you'll see if you watch us on patreon.com/K&M, maybe every time I would give some exposition, literally 10 to 15 seconds later, the show itself would address it and give the exposition, which made me feel just so proud and so seen and so respected by the episode, which I think is something we'll talk about later, but I had a lot of fun. Keith, how much fun you might say, and I'm going to blow it right at the top, Keith. Monetization be damned. You can join us at patreon.com/K&M. Do you think it's just Mike sitting there watching the episode? Oh, not always. Let's just see if he's having any fun, Keith.
Ooh, I want to see this now.
Not really. I've been
Amazing. Well, you got the choreo down.
Doing choreo, jamming, singing along, the nine.
I'm surprised Jen wasn't with you.
She was curious as to what was going up. She came in right before the show and asked if we were going to do some vocal warm-ups, some vocalies before the episode, and I said, no, man. You got to do that on your own time.
That's right. Professionals don't warm up at the, you can warm up in the theater, but you do not expect the production to warm you up.
Do not ask the pianist for some scales.
No, you warm up on your own time. That is how it works in the biz. Unfortunately, the only real downside of that, you don't get the massage circles.
Yeah, those days are over. Remember God forbid, holy crap, now that is out. Massage circles are out, Keith.
Well, by consent, people who care to be in the massage circle can do that. I
don't want to be the guy asking. You don't want to be the one.
I won't be asking. Oh, hell no.
But be like, hey, massage circles, anyone?
That is the most I touched a girl until I was 40. So
that's fair. Zip, zap,
zop. Zop? I don't know what that means.
You never did zip, zap, zop?
Oh, yeah, vaguely. I don't like theater games.
Yeah, it's really. I was like, can we just, say the lines and sing the songs?
Yeah, can we just do the thing?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so we are here to talk about Season 2, Episode 9, Subspace Rhapsody, the musical. But before we can rhapsodize about the musical, we need to rap about last week, Under the Cloak of War, which, first off, nobody watched that episode. So people have such strong feelings about this that the people who do, the ratings were all over the place. Yeah. Really interesting from you guys, which you can leave, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of opinions about the musical episode. Leave them in the comments down below and give it your ratings out of self-sealing stem bolts. But for Under the Cloak of War, at the top came in Kevin Miles with a 94. Worf's Butchevs with an 83, JD with an 87, and then, interestingly, non-numerical answers. Our buddy Shammy Hacks from Toys says full marks.
I can only assume, Keith, that's 100.
I mean, it didn't say mostly marks. It said full marks.
Yeah.
But I think, speaking accurately about the treatment of PTSD and trauma, how well it handled that. However, on the other side of the scales, Harry Pothead declines to give a rating at all. Did not like this episode. So really fascinating to get everybody's feelings about that. I'd be curious from Harry Pothead, what particular flavor of it made you, was it Mike's objection? Was it a different objection? Anyway, curious interesting episode. We had a good time talking about it, but it's not a good time episode.
No, it's fair.
Like this one,
Mhm.
which aired on August 3rd, 2023. Just now. You got to throw that thing on there.
What? Oh, sorry, I was into it. About the episode? This? There you go.
There you go.
Sorry.
Because I'm not gonna. Because look, if you don't put it in, I have to rewatch a portion of the episode
fair.
to get the time code.
Wait, so
I don't want to
this
rewatch
aired
this.
literally less than a month ago.
A month and a half ago. Yeah. So it pretty recently. Our top song. I can guarantee you every single one of the songs on this episode were better than this one. Try that in a small town. Yikes, what is going on with our music industry? I'll tell you what about a small town. I grew up in a town of 2,500 people, and this song does not represent all of small towns.
No, we actually live in a small town, and you know what? Let's just move forward.
Yeah, well, there you go. But you want to know what was moving us forward? Barbie was in its third week of
just
domination.
came out on VOD. If you somehow missed the Barbie craze, you can watch it now, and I can't wait to watch it again.
Which I have not seen it yet, so I'll have to. I did the Nothingheimer, so I will eventually get to it in the
Keith
basement.
did the Hermit Basementheimer.
I know, isn't it great? It's like I can watch it at my leisure of like 2 months after everybody else,
Keith,
and I don't have to talk about it.
No matter what you do, you're Knuff.
I am Knuff, yes, and I just want to sit here in the basement with my 17 different TVs watching all the football. Anyway, if you weren't watching football, you might be having a steamy night here in the weekly world news headlines from 20 years before. She had some disappointments in her life, but damn, she got it on with that alien. My steamy night with Hillary in a UFO love nest. It's a shocking tell-all.
NASA won't commit, Keith. NASA won't commit that it was a UFO precisely, but they're doing some research.
They're feeling like it's close.
Yeah, a shaved ape baby up for adoption. You know, I was thinking about that hairy ape baby, but I just was like, it's too hairy.
Yeah.
So Jen and I now have put it in our papers. We are attempting to adopt a shaved ape baby.
I mean, but here's the thing. If you just shave it, it's temporary. You got a laser. Otherwise, it's going to be a hairy baby again.
That's a fair point. Will you give Precious Bundle a loving home?
Oh, well, good question. Good question.
Found in jungle, Amelia Earhart's barf bag. Almost
done.
missed that one. Okay.
Well done, Weekly World News headline. All right, so let's talk more about this episode. It was directed by Dermot Downes. This is Dermot's first episode of Trek, and written. Although I have a nit to pick with the billing of all of this, because it says this episode was written by Dana Horgan, who worked on Ad Astra Per Aspera, and Bill Wolkoff, those old scientists. Well, they only wrote the book.
Yeah, who wrote the score?
The music and lyrics were written by Kay Hanley and Tom Pulse from Letters to Cleo. But in order to find that, I had to go down 70 people deep in the credits on IMDb.
Do they have any other musical credits? Like, what else have they written?
Yes, they're from the band Letters to Cleo, and that's where they're from.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you. I meant more. Have they written any like commercial pop music, as any?
The pop music of Letters to Cleo.
Theatrical music, Keith.
They have not written theater music that I'm aware of. So. Yeah, and certainly I think some of that shows. We'll talk more about that later, but first we're going to talk about our patrons.
We are. I guess this is the time we do that. Keith, if you saw me dancing over there and making just a straight up fool of myself, you'd recognize you don't see that on the YouTube.
No.
And that is because it is saved for these fine folks. You get to watch me watch every episode of this series, as well as Deep Space Nine, as well as other stuff Keith and I post, as well as that warm, fuzzy feeling in the pit of your belly, knowing that you are helping finance one of the absolute biggest catastrophes on YouTube. And those people are Brian Kimball Beersock, Casey Clark, Jason Moe, Joshua Cronin, Andrew Hayes, Jorge Navoa, and the Mysterious, who knows a thing or two about musical Star Trek episodes. Worf's big old boot shivs, Charles Babbage, Richard Coleman, Harry Pothead, reserving comment when necessary and laying the smacketh when necessary, CRM Productions, Nikolay Ivanovich Lobachevsky, Delusions at Noon, Steve Brown, YouTube viewer, who always lets us know what he thinks of us, Keith, which, you know what, sometimes we need to chickadee check. JD Makes, Colin Dagan, Chris Mitchell, CRM, Pat, and Joshua Cronin, who send us stuff in the mail because they love us so much, and we love them right back because it's not once been anthrax or a bomb. It's always fun toys to play with. You can be part of this team in any way, shape, or form by going to patreon.com/K&M.
100% anthrax free. We definitely appreciate that.
We think? There are two packages I haven't opened yet, so...
That's true. Well, we'll see. Don't count your package till you open it. All right, and you know what that means. It's time for... Now, Keith, waste your time with trivial trivia. All right. I have a lot more trivia throughout it, but I'm going to sprinkle it in as we're talking about it. But just a few things. After the first song, while leadership is discussing the situation, there is an exchange, Mike, about bunnies. Do you know what this is a reference to?
No.
Another super famous musical episode of a non-musical series, probably the best one since this one, Buffy the Vampire Slayer's Once More with Feeling, which has been named by the showrunners as the inspiration for Subspace Rhapsody. Once More with Feeling, I thought was a triumph as a musical episode.
I recall watching it with a friend of mine, Summer, but I do not remember it specifically.
Did you watch Buffy? Did you watch all of that?
No, but I watched a good bit of it. I had a fleeting relationship with this really cool person at a really tough time in my life, and mostly what I would do is, my dad had just passed away, so I would just go to her house and we would watch Buffy, make out and stuff.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I mean, God, the Joss Whedon of it all is so freaking disappointing because I loved Buffy.
Yeah.
Anyway, fantastic episode. The Klingon general Gargog. Do you have any idea who played Gargog?
I didn't really have time to really analyze who was who, Keith, because that whole sequence really did things for me. It was awesome.
Well,
I had the same reaction to that sequence to... Did you see SpongeBob, the musical?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, well, there is a sequence where the bad guy, who I forget, the little cretin, I can't remember what they're called, but anyway, they're not singing much in the whole episode, and then like it's time for their big number, and it starts at this ballad, but turns into this full hip hop rap dance sequence that just literally rocked me out of the theater through the back wall. Had a very similar response to this. Well,
I know they pro shot it. I need to sit down and watch it.
That's right. I forgot they pro shot it. You absolutely should watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's actually really great. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. To get back to the point, who played the Klingon? It's somebody very important to this show. It was Bruce Horak, who played Hemmer.
Oh, that's cool.
Right?
I gotta go back and watch it again.
And, Uhura mentions Hemmer in Keeping Us Connected. And boom, there he is. He's still connected to the show because he has now appeared twice after death. Now, here is a bit of a spoiler in the universe of Star Trek, but it is kind of important here. Dr. Corby, that Nurse Chapel is trying to get a fellowship with, is Roger Corby. The character is from the original series episode What Are Little Girls Made Of from 1966, where he is revealed to be Nurse Chapel's fiancé. Though by the time of the episode, he has been missing for several years. So he's got a really good thing coming, and then maybe not so much good moving forward in history.
Yes, which leads to maybe the most cold-hearted breakup of all time.
She was under she was musical theaterized. She couldn't do it. She had no
Keith,
control.
Who amongst us hasn't written a bitter a bitter DTFO tune before.
I mean, who hasn't written a bitter, rock opera or two or seven? You're gonna say full song? No, I mean a full rock opera. Like we've all. God, I have like an entire notebook there, which is literally just bitter songs.
I have a few bad ones, but one in particular in my head that I think there's a demo of somewhere was like, ooh, it was.
Do I have it? Is it on my hard? I have some of your demos from like 20 years ago on the hard drive here somewhere.
This one was pretty rough, man.
We should someday, and there's no world for this. There's nothing like. There needs to be like a bad trunk song concert where we go out and we trot out like the stuff we're really most embarrassed about from like our 20s.
That is a lot. We're gonna need a whole podcast.
I know. I think like the first 100 songs I wrote were like angry garbage. Anyway, moving forward, let us talk about our guest stars on this episode, including Paul Wesley back as James T. Kirk and fantasy alternate Kirk. Mm-hmm. And we are regular guest starring Melanie Scrofano as Marie Battelle, Dan Jeanette as George Samuel Kirk, and Bruce Horak as Garcock, and Carol Kane as Pelia, and co-starring Rong Fu as Jenna Mitchell. So lots of different types of guest stars.
Of Kane, which is that's our preferred flavor.
Oh God. Carol Kane. Yeah. I was thinking Kane the wrestler. I'm like, wait, was he in this? That would have been awesome.
He's busy.
He's busy. Woo, being a right-wing nutjob. All right, anyway, what do you say we go into our screening room and do the least satisfying thing you can do for a musical? Talk about it.
We're gonna talk about it. Yeah. I won't give it away, but I am. All right, let's just roll.
Okay. Whew. So, in our teaser, the Enterprise. Speaking of teaser, we haven't told you whether we like it or not. Mm-hmm. Although Mike's dancing kind of gives it away. The Enterprise is checking out a subspace fold, and Uhura thinks they might be able to use this to send messages faster than usual.
I've been telling myself that, Keith. Actually, when I get out of the shower and I'm not liking what I'm seeing, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm not putting on too much weight. It's just a subspace fold.
It's a subspace fold. I just need to sing a song and it will close. Just me in the shower.
I can find the pattern.
I feel fat. I don't like this at all. Why isn't this folding?
Put a towel over the mirror so I don't have to look at myself.
It has to go over the mirror because it doesn't go around me. I need bigger towels till I fold the subspace. Okay. It's using a lot of computer power, so she's going to have to play old-timey telephone operator, where they had to do the switchboard. My grandmother did that as an occupation for a brief stint back in the 40s. You know what I'd
like to do some research on, actually, because I don't know. You know how it used to be you'd pick up the phone and you'd talk to the switchboard operator and you'd be like, could I get Cloverleaf 222 or whatever? I'd like to know how that all worked. Like, what was the actual? I'm sure I can wiki it. I will do that. But how it all how it worked specifically.
I mean, I believe you're genuinely plugging in basically like 1/4-inch cables.
Yeah, the mechanics of it makes sense. But what was the organizational technique? Like, I know instead of a phone number, you had there was a way to route it through how the person the communication between you and the patch board. I'm interested in.
Well, I mean, it was basically a direct line. You picked up, and the operator's there; they can hear you.
It was like, can I talk to Keith at XYZ Cloverfield Road? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah, and that's earlier they were like party lines too. So you shared one line with like a bunch of houses in your area.
And that's good old days.
Good old days. All right, so we get a series of subplots that we find out about through the operator moments there. Pike is setting up a vacation with Battelle, but he wants to put it off because it's touristy. Chapel is waiting for news on some new fancy fellowship, and Kirk is being shoehorned back into the show, and La'an is excited, so much so, it's making number one sweat.
Maybe my favorite line of the episode. That was really funny and out of nowhere, where she's like, I feel the heat. I'm on fire. I was like, damn, that is a good way to like tease somebody.
I feel like the only cure for that is more cowbell.
Yeah. Hey,
I feel
coming in
the
hot,
heat.
La'an, which she was.
She, to be fair, was. And good news, Chapel gets the fellowship, and Ortegas points out she's gonna be missed. She thinks it's about Spock, but it's about her because they're destined to be together in my mind. I'm definitely shipping Ortegas and Chapel. In engineering, they can't get the communication through the subspace fold because the towel's there until Carol Kane suggests singing into it. Sure, why not?
Well, I mean, it shouldn't be a shock, right? We've done that before. Music was like wasn't it the first thing Uhura like uncovered on the show?
That's true. That was her thing, music.
Yeah.
So Uhura plays Anything Goes through it. And boom, there's a flash and everybody starts singing. I tried to look up who's singing the Anything Goes.
It's Patty.
That's not Patty.
It's 100% Patty.
No. Because it was somebody trying to do like a merman.
It definitely sounded like Patty to me.
I thought it was Discount Merman. I thought it was somebody doing a take on it. All right, somebody out there, look it up because I tried to find it. No.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I know it wasn't Sutton. I'll tell you that much.
No, it was not. I think it was Patty.
Musical theater nerds talking.
I mean, what else do you need other than Patti LuPone to open a subspace musical theater wormhole?
I mean, she's opened up a couple of riffs. Just if you get caught with your cell phone in the theater. So
stop filming. Right? She's right now. She's bitching us out.
Oh my god, I love Patty. All right. Anyway, so this song, we get our first song. The song is called Status Report, which reminds me a lot of the Buffy musical. It sort of musically lives in that world. And I was a little bit unclear why they didn't use real instruments, because with the budget they had, this was all synth instruments.
Yeah, it didn't sound bad though.
No, it sounded fine. But I thought, like, man, could have whipped out an orchestra for this.
I feel like I heard some actual orchestration later in some of it, but I think
they used a real acoustic guitar.
Yeah, and like some of the French horn in the finale seemed like. But to be fair, the line is so blurred these days; it's tough to tell.
Yeah, it was. So, what did you think of the first song?
I liked it. I expected a certain level of all the songs, and this was the first one, and it established my precedent a little bit higher. I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be legit, because I'm gonna try to really like dole out our opinions as we go. But I will say that my fear going in was, you see a lot of shows, Scrubs, people have done these musical theater episodes before. It's not a new gimmick. However, generally speaking, they are a few tropes that they almost always abide by. One, it's a lot of, oh my god, we're singing type of scenario, like huge-eyed through the fourth wall, which this does, but with a twist I think that is pretty effective. And two, a lot of times there's a little derision. It feels a little talking down,
making fun
to it.
Of what it is.
And this gave me actually a lot of hope going into the episode, because it did not feel that way at all. It felt very much what songs are supposed to do, which is either reveal internal emotional stakes or just push the plot forward, which is what this is doing, right? It's establishing what's going on, and I liked it. And it was also like, I liked that there was like a good blend of pop meets general musical theater arrangement and orchestration. So I liked the first song, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I did too. I think that, I mean, yes, had the purpose of this been to make fun of musical theater, I think I would have had a real big problem with that. And I very much appreciate that that's not what's happening here. This was written by people who love musical theater and appreciate it. And so love that. I think that the They did a good job with the auto-tune, protecting the non-singers and allowing the singers to sing.
That was the point I was going to make before. I think
which was
it's very
great.
difficult because you don't want to overdo it, obviously, but at the same time, there are clearly those who are have a decent facility for voice, some who can really sing, and some who aren't. But I will say this up top: I really appreciated that even the non-singers, Captain amongst all of them,
yep,
commit, and they do not.
Tried his best.
They do not shy away from it, and even they protect Mbenga, but he's got some great moments. Like they, and the autotune across the board seemed like it was they found the balance to have it all seem unified.
Yeah.
Right. There was like I thought the mix and the just general soundscape of it. Some of the songs are better than others, such yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But generally, the mix and everything was really really strong. I would listen.
Yeah,
I would absolutely listen to this on the.
No question. Yeah, there's a couple tunes I would absolutely throw into my. If I worked out, I'd listen to them. There's also very good vocal arrangements in this opening number, which the ensemble vocal arrangements I really liked.
And also the direction. It's hard. It's difficult. It's different shooting this type of stuff, right? And I thought a lot of the sight lines and a lot of the framings were really interesting because, with the exception of I think like one really bad attempt at choreography and like the finale where I think it was handled pretty well, where there was actual some combinations, they did around it and they were able to give the feel of choreography without having choreography. You know what I mean? Which
I thought they worked their way into it really smartly here with Ortegas and I forgot her name. Sort of accidentally doing choreography. They're accidentally in sync and they can't stop it. I thought that was such a great way to like work our way into that. Now, I am going to say, and I'm going to say this a couple of times through the episode, that the number one thing that is going to bug me about this is some of the details in the lyrics. Now, I'm not the guy who likes to be like the BMI nanny. The BMI workshop is a musical theater writers workshop where they get really nitpicky and nanny-y about structure and form and rhyme and this, that, and the other thing. And I don't like that environment. That's not my jam. However, there are just a couple of just sort of lyrical stuff that really lands clunky to me. Usually it's rhyming things that don't quite rhyme, right? Which doesn't matter in pop music, but in musical theater, it does matter. You can't mostly rhyme in musical theater. It has to rhyme, or else it's going to sound sort of clunky. And misaccents, right? Where you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable musically, that reads really clunky to me. And the score of this is 95% perfect. You're so close that when it does mess up, it really lands bad on, at least on my ear, because this is my world, this is what I do, right? Most people were never going to notice it, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just sort of being the old man shouting at the clouds here. But to me, it's like, ouch, because it feels very amateurish to lay stuff out with misaccents and stuff that doesn't rhyme. I'll mention a couple of examples, but I'm not going to harp on it. But that was just like a general feeling that I had, that I really wish they had brought in a professional musical theater lyricist, because they're great lyricists, but musical theater lyricists to spend like an hour and clean up these things.
You know, it's funny because my feeling was less that. I mean, I did clock some of it. I did clock also that when not speaking about emotional stuff, more when talking about just like general plot beats, the lyrics were very exposition heavy. But I chalked that up very much to the entity, right? That is utilizing the thoughts, words, and feelings of the characters, and less. So it's not going to be as unique, clever lyrically as it would be in a full score. Like, it's just kind of using what it's got at its disposal in their head. So I was able to kind of shake off some of that malaise. But you're not wrong. But it just was so I'm not in your world specifically, so I was able to shake off a lot more of, I think, the...
Yeah, and I
Because
do
for
too.
all of that, for that 5%, there is 95% that is so much better than I expected that I couldn't help just to be charmed.
No, for sure. And like, don't let my
It needs to be. I think we need to note it. We need to note it. For sure.
I mean, I don't let this. Don't get the impression that I didn't like it as a result of this.
There's
It's
also
just
almost
like,
a full score. What were there? 10 songs?
Yeah. It's a full. All right, we'll keep talking about it. I'll have more thoughts at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get a sung version of the opening titles. Love it. I think they really should have committed though to going full a cappella.
I agree. Because this was definitely just the keyboard doo-doo-doots.
Well,
you know that patch that's like
I think it was the arranger doing it.
Boom, bow, bow, boom, bow. It felt like just the keyboard.
I think it was the people doing it, but they when they brought in the real percussion and then backed up with some of the real instruments, just get a great college a cappella group to do it. They do it in a heartbeat.
We're just spending all of Paramount's money right now.
I know, it's not my money. I don't care. So anyway, in Act 1, apparently the songs are happening everywhere on the ship. And Kirk, when he came on, assumed that it was all rehearsed until he started singing, which I thought that was really funny. Like, Kirk comes on the ship, wow, you guys are like doing you have like a musical number? And then he starts singing. I love that little detail. They technobabble an explanation for being thrust into a musical reality. I am very familiar with said reality. There's more technobabble, and they need to close the rift into the musical reality. They do a lot of like very obvious technobabble here to somehow try to justify it.
There's a zipper and all that.
Yes, yeah. It doesn't matter. Although I have thoughts later about I think a way they could have done it a little better. But anyway, Uhura and Spock talk about his romance with Chapel. He's in love, but their communications have had some challenges. That, folks, is a song setup. But not yet, because Una and Kirk are going to chat about their command style, about her keeping a distance from a crew. And this, of course, starts a song called Connecting Your Truth, which is the only sort of attempt they did at sort of old school like R&H, like...
Which, I love the Gilbert and Sullivan reference, and I like that they made that swing, right? They opened with like very much a pop musical theater tune, and here they're like, and I thought that for a swing at Golden Age musical theater, it had some charm, and clearly Rebecca Romaine knows her way around a tune and delivering such. So I thought it was. I'll take it.
Yeah, it was fine.
It wasn't one of the better songs for sure, but it definitely didn't fall flat.
Because it's sort of an intentional pastiche, right? Yeah. You're just sort of checking the box of musical genres as opposed to like having a great song, but it was fine. Has a recit start, which I thought was fun. She sings a very good point about the purpose of musical theater, that you express things in songs you would never express in dialogue. Yup, that's kind of it. And she imagines herself on the stage. The character does. Now, she never did Broadway. Rebecca Romaine never did Broadway, but she did do Ula in The Producers at Hollywood Bowl.
I didn't know that.
With a pretty big cast.
I did like
heavy hitting cast.
I did like, once again, to give credit where credit is due, that as this is one of the first character songs, they didn't overplay the hand of, oh my God, I'm gonna sing. Well, like it becomes clear that whilst they are aware that what's happening is they're not in control of, they don't overplay the hand of this is weird or this is uncomfortable. They kind of go with it, and everybody around them goes with it, and I like that, the buy-in, because
it's very Star Trek to be like, oh, we're in this crazy situation. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. Let's do it.
It does bring up the one wormhole that I have, which is and it's weird to think about these kind of things, but like I buy, the science. I get it, right? It's this we're in this clearly this thing that is creating this disturbance that is making us sing. But do we all hear the orchestration?
I think so.
Yes,
I think we all hear it.
Is it just like in our engulfing everybody around us, or how long is that? How big is that sphere? Am I working down on the like the lower decks, and I'm hearing the big band upstairs? Like, what's the scope?
I think you hear it in the room that you're in, because I get the impression from when they said it's all over the ship that there are musical numbers happening all over the ship.
Yeah, that's the picture too. That's funny. That's awesome.
Which is hilarious, because I'd love to see like the B side where we see all the lower deck people singing.
Yeah, that's funny.
See? It's a good chance there. Anyway, there are some misaccents here that are a little jarring. The score is good, but the lyrics need another pass. I stand by that. La'an sees them singing together, Kirk and number 1, so she gets jealous. She definitely needs a power ballad, which she gets
Yes,
immediately.
she does.
How would that feel,
So, Keith,
Christine?
she's hysterical. She's a great dramatic actress. It's not possible that she's an incredible singer and musical performer too, is it?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, that lady can sing.
This actress, who I was not aware of before seeing this show, has skyrocketed to maybe the top of my current actresses' fascinations. I think she is uniformly excellent in literally everything she is asked to do.
She's got range. She has tremendous range.
It's like in a musical comedy episode, the pathos that she brings in this episode, she literally choked me up 2 times in this episode. In a comedy episode.
I mean, I think if I've got a crush on Chapel,
is it hot in here? Is it hot in here?
Ooh,
I'm on fire.
I can feel the heat on fuego. We need some more cowbell. So, I wrote down Christina Chung is clearly a singer. And if you didn't know, she either has an album coming out or it already just recently came out. So get onto your iTunes. Is iTunes still a thing anymore?
Yeah, it's Apple Music. But
all right, well, go listen to Christina Chong's new album.
I'm going to do that.
So I wrote down good song, great hook, borrowed the intro from Christina Aguilera's Beautiful. But once again, yeah. Okay, here are the notes for the song. Love the song. We'll listen to the song again. Love the hook. It's got a great belt. Comfortable and vulnerable do not rhyme. This doesn't matter in pop music, but if you're going to do musical theater, do musical theater. Also borrows a good chunk of music from Beauty School Dropout.
Yeah, it did get a Beauty School Dropout vibe.
There's just two like 4-bar passages which are literally just copy paste from great songs, mind you.
Actually made me care much more once again about this kind of semi weird relationship that's going on.
I mean, I loved it. I mean, her belt, I think it was like a C sharp and stuff. It's great.
I like a good voice. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about. I'll take even a substandard voice, borderline bad, if someone is just like acting the shit out of it, and you get both here. So it was hard for me to not love it. I loved it.
I need you to do both. That's you got to be awesome at both.
Cool.
Anyway, she's nervous about expressing her emotions and explains this.
It is a shock to me that Keith's able to sit down with that stick just lodged completely straight up his ass.
Yeah, well, hey, look, you came to my house, okay, Star Trek? You came to my house. Mm-hmm. So I didn't invite you.
Keith's just hurt he didn't get that phone didn't ring. He's been staring at his phone for seasons.
I am so pissed I didn't write this. 100%. No, if you think that half of this isn't envy that I didn't get a chance to write it, you're 100% right. So La'an explains what's going on to Pike. And on the bridge, Spock and Uhura start to plan to stop this musical nonsense, as they say. Kirk and his brother then set up stuff to send a beam into the fold for reasons. There's more flashy lights. It starts to close, but it's not gonna work. And we get another surge. And guess what? They get a call from the Cayuga. Batel wants to talk about their canceled vacation, but she starts singing too in a song called Private Conversation, where they fight about vacation in front of everyone. Hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny.
I like the I liked the idea because in musical theater, right, you have three types of songs, right? You've diegetic songs where you're singing, like you're a band on stage and you're singing, everyone else knows you're singing. Then you have songs where you are singing to another person and they're hearing you, but they're not hearing it as music. The lyrics are just text to them. And then there are sort of internal monologue songs where you're singing, but only you can hear it. And so this is sort of like an accidental diegetic. So everyone else can hear them singing, even though they don't know that they're singing. It's clever.
I got vibes of that Tick Tick Boom song I love called Therapy, where it's like, I feel bad that you feel bad. It's about the fight, less about the stakes, which are pretty small. So,
right. No, I thought it was a clever way to do that.
But what I love about this scene, Keith, is it, in my opinion, takes it from what we were talking about, like a pretty fun, the gimmick we've seen before, and it's fun, and we're having fun, to actually doing something a little bit different that I really appreciated, which was, we get this with La'an here, where we then recognize that this MacGuffin of singing, the musical part, is actually the antagonist of the episode. And
yes,
we recognize it, and now we have to actively plot against it, and she has to shut down because it's affecting us, and we can't control it, and it's going to allow us to divulge secrets, which could be a security threat, is actually really thinking it
dangerous.
through.
Yeah.
And puts an omnipotence and a nefariousness to it that I really appreciate, and I thought is putting a spin on it that we don't necessarily see generally when they do this type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, I really hate my co-host.
And then you're like, oh God, I've been stealing
really
the $30 a month.
I asked so many people and they all said no. I mean,
you
what?
were the
No.
fourth choice.
I'm just using you for your fancy computer.
Although that changes. Like when you're young, right, in the business, and you find out, you get to a rehearsal or something, you're like, oh yeah, I had two friends that turned it down. You're like, oh shit, I was the third cast. And then as you get older, you don't give a shit. If you're in the room, baby, oh, well, I don't care how I got it. I'm here.
I'm delighted to be fifth choice.
Yeah, happy.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, it's the same thing as being typed out.
Yeah,
right.
Great. You saved me. I can go to Panera now.
Yeah. I mean, for the non-people in the biz, being typed out means you go to a large cattle call audition for a show, and before you even get a chance to sing or do any auditioning whatsoever, they would go around the room and just everybody who's not sort of the type they're looking for in the show, they say like, no, you're typed out. We don't even want you to audition, which used to be such a. I don't think they'd even do that anymore. But like
non-equity
back in our day,
yeah.
They're like, you, everyone else go away. And I'm like, yes,
cool, yeah.
Lunch.
And 100% that, lunch. I was like, oh, well, I set aside the next 3 hours. I'm not going to go eat.
Yeah, 100%. All right. La'an smartly shuts off the communication. She obviously, like you said, picks up on the danger. And we also find out the entire fleet has now been infected with musical theater. Oh, it's like high school all over again. In Act 2, we find out, unfortunately, we didn't get to see this. I would have liked to have, that Admiral April has a beautiful baritone. They discuss, and Uhura says, they're now living by the rules of musical theater too. Pike wants to blow it up, but Spock says, let's blow it up on a small scale first.
Smart.
Wise. Kirk and La'an are set for a 2-person job, but La'an says, nope, Una can tell she's got a crush, and then the sexy music starts. Although I thought it was going to be a sexy music between La'an and Kirk, but it ends up being an Una song called Keeping Secrets. Una starts singing a song about, you guessed it, keeping secrets, and she briefly turns off gravity while she's singing so they can float around. I thought that was such a creative use of like choreography there.
Yes, it starts, but then they do that zoom out, which I didn't get a shot of. That is absolutely horrific. Go back and watch it. The zoom out of the ship, which is kind of cool, but the characters inside are some of the worst CGI for no reason. It's like they forgot to go in and put the actual artist pass on top of it. It is bad. It doesn't look like humans. It looks worse than a video game. It's weird how bad it is, which tells me that I think maybe it was a mistake, like it was a comp shot they forgot to, I don't know. But
interesting.
It bothers
it's like the
me.
people, on Titanic when all of a sudden the people are.
It bothers me how bad
Sims.
that little couple frames is, but
Didn't even notice.
not the strongest of the songs. But cool. I liked the little bit of. Regardless of the song, it actually is a pretty cool little character beat between them. One thing this episode excels at is that all of the songs, because it's giving, I think it's because it gives them an opportunity for some of the characters who aren't so keen to give away their internal emotional subtext. It gives them an opportunity to express it or to leak it, and I think we are better for that. So it's really smart in the sort
And
of...
that is the glory of musical theater.
Yeah.
Because, Javert would not be talking about the stars out in the distance, but because he sings it, we can understand what he's doing, because the Javert in real life probably wouldn't say very much at all.
Yeah.
We'd have no idea why he's chasing down Valjean. I like the story of the song better than the song too. But it is interesting. I'm looking for misaccents and Mike's looking for bad CGI. That's how we work.
Well, makes sense.
That's us.
But
So,
once again, in a kind of schlocky song with like questionable lyrics, they're able to still tell the story because of performances, and I will continue to say that. Like,
And it makes sense from Una's character having been somebody who held back and kept secrets her entire life, and then finally breaking out of that after Ad Astra. It's good. It's good character stuff.
and she's got like so many levels of performance here because she's aware of the danger of the security threat of the singing. I think she's uncomfortable and not wanting to be revealing anything about her insides, her emotional insides out loud for fear of many things, but at the same time is recognizing the relief of the expression of those feelings, which propels her to be more upfront about other things later in the episode.
Yeah. All right. So I lost where I was. Private conversation. That's it.
Now let's talk
Keep your
chapel,
secrets.
and we're in the chapel.
That's right. So La'an and Kirk work on the test, and they're all cute and datish. Then there's a boom. Their test almost blew up everything, and it definitely made our problem worse. And we find out, there's a Klingon ship coming. So, and they say on the show, we definitely don't need singing Klingons. Yeah, we're going to get one. And so the Klingons are coming to blow up the fold, which will make it much, much worse. Also, as I wrote down here, just putting together now that Celia Rose Gooding, Uhura, was the original Frankie Healy in Jagged Little Pill on Broadway.
Oh, well, that tracks.
I saw that. It didn't even clock that she has a Broadway background. Of course she does. And when we find her singing later, we're like, yeah, this totally makes sense. But that is, I also wrote down a couple examples. Star Trek and Broadway have a long history together. Mike, did you know that Brent Spiner, Data, was in the original Broadway cast of Sunday in the Park?
Oh, I didn't know that. Makes
One of
sense,
my all-time favorite shows. Robert Duncan McNeil, Tom Paris was in the Into the Woods tour. Roxanne Dawson, also from Voyager, was in Chorus Line. We, of course, know that Renee Aubergenois was in Big River and Dance of the Vampires. Duh. The Now Visitor did Chicago. And Bob Picardo, the doctor, did Gemini, the musical, with my ex-wife. So,
God,
lots
Gemini.
of...
Oof, I auditioned many a time for that.
Oh, did you audition for that production in Philly?
Yeah.
So it would have been like 15 years ago?
I think all of the productions I got called in for. And didn't DNB.
Did you got typed out after your audition?
Yeah. I don't have a good joke.
Yeah, well, I've been typed out plenty of times that way. Anyway, so in Act 3, we reinforce that if the Klingons attack the fold, they're going to blow up the Federation and half of Klingon space. It's not great. So Uhura and Spock try to reverse engineer the song by studying how it starts and realizing, we need to start some songs with our weird feelings that cause us to start singing. So they go and be awkward with Chapel. And it naturally starts a song. The song is I'm Ready. Chapel is ready. She sings sort of this big sort of torch song dance number where we get some choreo, some actual choreo for the first time from Mike. And we find out Sam Kirk is the best dancer on the show.
Yeah, that was great.
Take that, Jim. Thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, she announces that she's ready to leave Spock to go focus on her career. And this,
actually, I have to give Mr. Peck some really credit. I really, the whole human Spock thing that we're getting to see here, before the song even starts, when he's just like, how come you chose not to tell me? And I really could have used that information. I'm just curious. There was so much in those two line deliveries that it like daggered me. It clearly daggered Chapel. And I thought, I want to reiterate, and I know people have varying opinions. I love this Spock. I really like him. I really like him as an actor. I like this portrayal. I like this glimpse that you don't generally get to see. I mean, yeah, it's crazy to have to be a young Kirk, but to be any version of Spock, that has to go against even remotely in the shadow of a Nimoy is like an impossible task.
Yeah.
And I think he's I think it's just great. I think it's excellent.
Yeah, the shadow of Nimoy is large for sure. But yeah, I mean, I actually liked this whole scene. I liked this song. I liked the story that it told. That yes, I mean, of course, it does sort of, beat a death knell for a relationship, but I also totally get it.
Actually,
she's
I think
ready to go.
Go ahead. Finish your point.
Oh, just like, she's ready to move forward with her career, and her career is the most important thing to her. And God knows I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And the sacrifices that she's willing to make, and that and I don't think she's had really any bones about that from the very beginning.
I think it succeeds on every level. I think visually it's really interesting. They get to show some different kind of looks around, and it's some of the other songs have been a lot of walk and talk, walk and sing, or kind of montagey. This one is a sort of self-contained production number, if you will.
Yeah. Yep.
I also think that it serves the purpose of furthering their relationship by kind of ending it. But also it shows the insidious nature about the antagonist of the episode, which is the out of nowhere singing, because I think would probably have approached this a lot more delicately with Spock, and maybe not at all for quite a while, would have put it off for quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so here it's kind of forced, and so it acts... there's like a sharp edge to it, which I don't know is her intention emotionally, right? But it is what the Force has done to her, and it's complicated things. So I think it succeeds on all the levels.
It's good musical storytelling, because this song could have just been a song about, I'm ready to go off and do my thing. Well, it would have been boring, right? You add this other layer of it's actually kind of a breakup song. But then, as a musical theater writer, your musical score, the music, the tempo, the style of music is part of the storytelling.
Yeah, it's in a kind of a Lydian mode, if you will.
Well, and the juxtaposition of the happy, excited up tempo with the heartbreak of it is part of the storytelling. Because, this I think would have been easier information for Spock to receive had it not been a jazzy up tempo. If it were like a sad ballad, it would have been more respectful to his feelings. That her feelings of excitement would have been tempered at least a little bit when she told him about it. So like that, the part of the dagger is the style of music and the style of the arrangements, and that's good musical theater storytelling, because you either support it or you work against it. And it's all part of the
those subtle touches and understanding of the art form and that I think make it rise above, like we said in the beginning, just a sort of haha, isn't it funny that she has to sing it and it's clever, like just a continual reiteration of the joke, you know what I mean? We're actually using it as a plot device and as a storytelling device, and that all makes me kind of overlook the sort of some of the schlockiness. Now, I think it's fair to point out once again, but like I said, those are the type of things that make you think, oh, okay, they actually set out to make a musical, like an effective as a storytelling device.
Right. Well, and I think that they, in part of this, the smart thing they did, and I've made this mistake as a writer before, right? When you inject musical onto a thing that you're not expecting to be a musical about, you get a song or two of value out of that, but then eventually people just accept the fact that we're singing, and you can't rely on the fact that, oh my God, they're singing to be the source of your humor or the source of your whatever. You have to then start to tell a musical, start to tell a story. And that's when, I wrote a musical about football, right? And the first version of it, I was talking about this reading that I did. Was it like a big reading in Manhattan? We had like Broadway producers coming and everything like that. And 15 minutes into the reading with this incredible cast, I was like, this show is dead. And I had to keep playing for 2 hours because I realized that the first couple of numbers, oh my God, I can't believe John Elway is singing. This is hilarious. And then that continued to be the joke. But the audience like, oh, we accept now that this is a musical. And now what I wrote as a comedy, as a rock, oh my God, now Dan Reeves is singing, and oh my God, now it's Mike Shanahan is singing. Well, it became a drama because I relied on the juxtaposition for the source of the funny.
That's really interesting.
And it killed it. It was DOA right there because I didn't realize that if you pick out each song and do them once by themselves, they're all hilarious. But all together, we accept that world like a goldfish. This is our environment now. So you have to now further the storytelling. And if it's a comedy, you got to find new ways to be funny outside of we're just singing now. Sorry, that was a very long way to explain that.
That's a good point.
So later, Jim Kirk and La'an talk. La'an spills the beans about her romance with other Kirk. And she misses who she was in his eyes, which is both sort of beautiful, but also kind of narcissistic. But I get it.
But she plays it, once again, I get what you're saying, but the way she plays it with this, you see that it's not just about that it's not just like it's the confusion she's playing that is so interesting because it's not something we can all really adapt with, right? Again, unless you've fallen in love with like a twin who then died, which I guess has happened once or twice. But I mean, like, it's not just, it's the confusion of I kind of fell for this dude and I'm attributing a lot of those feelings to you, even though I know that's a little messed up, but I think I'm kind of into you too because I'm a little messed up about the whole thing.
Well, you know what the analogy for that is a showmance. Because you fall in love with the person on stage as a different character, and then like, oh, I'm also digging on you, the actor, off stage.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's had a showmance or seven.
Well, what if you had a showmance, right, with somebody, and then the show's over, but then you later meet their twin? So it's not even the person you did the showmance with. It's like the twin sister of this person you had this experience. That would be the analogy.
Okay, well, I mean, write in, folks. Have you had this very specific instance? Who knows?
Who also turns out to be a shaved ape baby who was adopted long ago.
Who had an affair with Hillary Clinton, wrote a book about it. All right, so they get all schmoopy, but then, ready for the dagger? Kirk says, I'm in a relationship.
With a lady I knocked up? Do we know about this?
With Carol Marcus. Yeah,
he has a baby?
She's preggo with Star Trek 2 and 3.
Kirk Jr.?
This is canon. Yeah.
That is not. I just spilled the beans. What you want to, you know what, I can deal with, you know what, we got to, think about Kirk. Talk about should have been sung. I'm kind of digging you too. Oh, which isn't news, let me tell you, because he's been Kirking all over the place with her. Like, how many times you mentioned that drink, Kirk? But also, I've got a girlfriend who's pregnant. Oh, that's a lot to lay on somebody.
And all right. So canon-wise, obviously, we have to address the Carol Marcus of it all. But am I wrong? And I genuinely could be wrong about this because I'm not the expert on the original series stuff as I am the contemporary stuff. Fans out there, in the movie series, wasn't the kid a surprise to him? Wasn't David a surprise to Kirk?
Well, that makes him a lot less of a D-bag if he's off like having drinks and like flirty schmooping with people.
Because like maybe I'm wrong because like, Kirk bangs half of the quadrant coming up later. Obviously he does mention it's an on again off again thing with Carol Marcus, but
and he's like, and she's a little boring, she likes to hang out and I gotta travel around, so if you're cool with the pregnancy and if you're cool with being my ship in this port.
I mean, she was super hot and fun, but then she got a kid.
Oh,
now,
she's pregnant, come on.
Oh yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Nothing kills the mood more than a fetus.
Clip that for the out of context video. Anyway, later, Uhura goes to engineering, where she finds sad Spock, who is naturally despondent and sings "I'm the X." Very clever song. I like the song in a lot of different ways.
I like his performance too.
The performance is great. Auto-tuned baritone Spock sounds great. Engineering set looks great. The song itself, the duality of like it's a math equation. I'm solving for X, but also he's now the ex-boyfriend. We get it. It's great. The song is also a minor reprise of "I'm Ready," which is musical theater. The sad reprise of an up-tempo. Slow it down, maybe put it in minor, change the arrangements, and then you get to do the same song again. Very smart.
Well,
very
that
good
duality,
stuff.
Right, of the science versus the human
emotion.
Yeah, it's very much, once again, it's very clever.
Very well done.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and
could have easily just been the "I'm Spock and I'm pissed." You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, it was. I thought that was very, very well done. Which leads us to "Keep Us Connected." Uhura finally gets to sing,
which is the first back-to-back jam, actually.
Yeah. And I was different. Like, are we not going to take advantage of the fact that she's a Broadway star? Yeah, we are. She finally gets to sing as she figures stuff out.
I would imagine we would consider this the 11 o'clock, yeah?
Yes, definitely. She's lonely. They do a nice use of a 6/8 acoustic guitar. Mm-hmm. She sings the crap out of it. I love the song. Great chorus. I would 100% listen to this many times. However,
okay, let's
when
hear
I talk about misaccents, okay, this is what I mean, because it might not know what I mean when I say that. Okay, the word fabric, right? It's fabric.
Did you say fabric?
Fabric.
Yeah.
Fabric. And when you set the music to make somebody say fabric, it's a misaccent. And it pulls you out of the song, and it's just that last level. And I know it's so hard. Lyrics are, I think, the hardest part of theater writing. I mean, the book is really difficult, but in terms of music, lyrics are way harder than the music. It's incredibly difficult. It is both art and math. The math equation of setting all this stuff correctly.
Yeah, especially when a lot of times, very often, a separate person is setting it to, depending on how the cadence with which the partners work. But a lot of times, the melody is already set, and you're trying to set words on top of that. It's very hard.
And you're trying to shoehorn stuff in, and you can you can mush a little bit, but I find myself making these mistakes all the time too. And I'm listening to a song like, what, something's not landing right. I go back and I check two things. One, the voice leading. There might be an error in the voice leading. And two, whether it's something that doesn't rhyme exactly or whether there's a misaccent. And that's what I'm trying to like force in something to have the right accent, but it doesn't really. It's just like that is the polishing work that takes you from amateur to professional. And I just wish they had fix that, because it's such a great song otherwise. Anyway, I'm still going to listen to it, still going to enjoy it. Really great to see her just belting her face off. This cast should just put an album out.
It's great.
So in Act 4, Uhura realizes
Do you know what I say to the audience right before we get to this Act 4? I'm like, the only thing we're missing is an ensemble number.
Yep, the grand finale.
Yeah.
Uhura realizes the only way to solve this rift, is a giant finale number. Hilarious. But I wrote the phrase, the only way to solve this is a giant finale number, and then she said, the only way to solve this is a giant finale number.
Yeah.
So there we are. So she sings, "We Are One."
Isn't that funny? I said ensemble number, which then he says, but then you said a finale, and she says finale. We basically are just like,
yeah.
But
we're
that's
with you.
That's also rewarding people for having a little bit of like being into that fandom.
Theater knowledge, yep.
And at least they're making, it's a cursory attempt, but that's all you need at like a plot and then a resolution of said plot.
Yeah,
and the stakes I think are pretty cool. That the Klingons are going to destroy everyone. I think that's
entire
pretty fun
universe.
Too. Yeah,
they're going to drop a grenade on the gasoline just for fun.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, and very Klingon. So anyway, so here comes "We Are One" with tons of choreography, and I wrote down, "Oh, this one is silly."
Yeah,
because all right. So here's the thing. Star Trek, by its nature, is incredibly optimistic and sincere. That is sort of why we like Star Trek, and we like the open-hearted, optimistic version of it. However, once you put that type of open-eyed sincerity to music, it's adding sugar to your soda. It becomes a little over saccharine to the point where it becomes self-parody without that wink that you need. I was like,
I did not get that. I thought it was a lot, but that's what a big closing number is. I would have preferred probably. I actually think, Keith, one of your skills, one of your like the highlights of your music writing is your ability to write these sort of overlapping themes into like a grand song. That's like a skill you really have. Like you combine songs, previous songs from the show, or different people singing different things that then overlap. That's one of your skills. And I really thought that's what this was calling for. But instead, it's kind of just a separate number entirely. So yes, it could have been better, but I didn't get I don't think it drowned in Disney. Or in its own rainbow farts. So Rainbow Farts is exactly it. Like the song became Rainbow Farts until the Klingons come briefly to the rescue, featuring Bruce Horak Hemmer as the Klingon captain. That definitely helped with the lack of seasoning in the beginning of it. Really appreciated that. I also loved the choreography of the ship spinning. The fact that the ships had choreography was fantastic. I love that detail. Anyway, so it was the perfect amount of time. It was like 8 to 16 bars. They did their little bit, I mean, it was awesome. And then we're out. We all have a moment of like, what the fuck? And then we're back. It was great.
Oh, it was that was excellent. I mean, it's now
Anson Mount, God bless you, sir. He's like, I hate every second of this, but I'm going to be a part of it. Yeah.
I want to die, but I'm a professional. I'm going to do it. So the big finale works somehow. And there's another flash. And all right, so here's my question, Mike. Maybe you can answer this question for me. So there's a big flash, and it leaves, there's like 3 Klingon ships there. Big flash. The Klingon ships are gone. They disappear in a wink and the flash. So did we just put the universe back in order and back, however, as if we'd never done it? Or did we just kill all of those Klingons?
I think we just chalk it up to a wormhole, because I don't think we're resetting anything, but
So where did they go?
I don't know. I think that might be a wormhole. I didn't recognize that actually.
Did we just murder like 2,000 Klingons with our finale?
Well, after recognizing what they had just done musically, they might have been just a suicide mission. They brought shame to their families.
They brought dishonor to their families.
So they're out.
Yes. All right. Well, all right. That's a good way to fix it. They just self-destructed.
Yeah, they're like, we can't ever. That of all the things that I'm sure, like if the diehards that hated this episode, that was what they hated most, was what we did to the Klingons. 100%.
Silly Klingons. Yeah. I loved it. I'm on board.
Yeah, that might have been
Klingons have a sense of humor. Come on.
I would have loved Worf, man. Can you imagine Worf makes an appearance just to...
Worf would have been... Well, but like Klingons are very musical. Klingon opera is a big part of the whole universe. It's weird they sang techno and not opera, but whatever. Later, Una and La'an talk about Kirk.
It absolutely should have been in Klingon. That's the only thing, like, that would have brought it to 200.
That would have been better. Yeah. That would have been better. And you don't know if it's a misaccent if it's in Klingon.
Yeah.
So,
it's hard to
La'an
rhyme.
is sad.
It's hard to rhyme.
Yes. With gach. All right. So, weirdly, I had a Klingon actual word that rhymed right away. That's why I'm professional, folks. So, La'an is glad she took a chance to tell Kirk what was the deal. And Batel and Pike talk it out. She wants him to be honest with her when he hates her vacation ideas. I did write down terrible missed opportunity to have this emotional scene and not have one of them just try singing and have it be terrible.
Great beat.
The truth is I don't like never mind. Just like that would have been really funny.
I guess they're about to do that joke on the bridge.
They do sort of do that on the bridge. Yes. I like my version better. Anyway, all is well again. Spock worked it out by getting drunk with the Klingons again. And then at the end, Uhura starts humming again and scares the crap out of everybody. And that is the end of Subspace Rhapsody. Mike, we got through the musical episode. We've been waiting all season for this one.
We were, and I've remained spoiler-free somehow amongst the discourse.
There it is. Well, there's not much to spoil. It's a musical. There wasn't any plot. So let's do some punchies.
Yeah, you know what song I like?
Yeah. Well done.
That shit!
Punch it, punch it, punch it.
Just punch it, man. Just punch it.
Punch it, punch it, punch it.
Let's punch it.
Hit it.
Yo, Adrian!
It's the Punchies!
Always get a giggle, Keith. Always get a giggle.
Oh my god. And the punches. That's really funny. Okay, how do we address wormholes in the plot in the musical episode?
Well, I definitely think that the Klingons being disappeared is an important one to note, as we just did.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll just make cursory reference to it. It's not a big deal to me because I don't think it's... I think they did enough of a job attempting to lay out a scientific backing for all of this that I think that as a bridge, it would be scary and wobbly to walk upon, but I do think you'd make it to the other side. So, it'd be like one of those like Temple of Doom type scenarios, but I do think you'd get there. So it was enough for me. Yeah, I think I think to think more strongly about that, I would say that your wormholes of misaccented English words is probably fair to mention in this section. People would, even if you're singing, you probably would say words correctly, so we can put it there.
That's true. Yep. One would hope that you still remember English.
Yeah. Do you have anything more specific?
No, I don't. I mean, I have a rewrite for the explanation that I'll talk about in the stem bolts. What happened to the Klingon ships that disappeared? I definitely want to know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know what happened. But other than that, I mean, what's there to wormhole? Mm-hmm. It's an excuse to sing some songs.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, and the one I always bring up whenever Kirk is there, like, Kirk is here now too? For reasons that only sort of make sense? Are there... Anyway, doesn't matter.
I have to say that... Like, look, Kirk has a reputation and precedes himself. I get it. I get it. But normally he doesn't seem... He's definitely always smarmy, but he's never seemed as kind of like... It's a little gross now, only because he was so overtly flirty with her from the get, and the context that he's got like a lady back home who's pregnant really ruins the fun of the Kirk of it all, and makes it a little bit like... Bleh.
Wait, Mike, is this breaking news to you that Kirk is kind of sleazy with the ladies? Is this like breaking news?
No, listen,
He bangs three-quarters of the quadrant.
Don't think that's sleazy at all. In fact, I've had a couple phases in my life where I was not particularly beholden to anyone. But that said, I've never been just going around cheating on people. Like, that's straight up different. You know what I mean? And admitting to it and being like, hey, are you cool? Because I want to be honest, I'm into this too. I'm feeling the connection, if you will. But I got a prego back home. So, like, is that cool? Like, that's a little weird to me.
But I got a prego back home.
That's what he said. That's what he said.
Wow. I don't know that's quite what he said, but...
Yeah, he said, I got a prego back home. The bad emphasis. Okay. All right. Listen, for me...
I've got a fetus.
It's everything. What's the actress's, my favorite actress's name? Who I'm going to get her album right now?
Christina Chong.
Christina Chong is everything she does. She knocks it out of the park. I think her performance is like 3 levels of great here. I think she's the only person who's like recognizes the threat of the whole shebang. She is singing her balls off. She's making me choke up and cry. I think that her first song was so emotional.
No, not Keeping Secrets. What the heck is their song? After Keeping Secrets. Not I'm Ready. Keep talking. I'll find them.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so her performance, I think, as broad strokes, is my favorite. But I think the best moment, like, as just far as television, is absolutely that Klingon scene. I think that just that, like, that 16 bars of them, because you know it's coming because they tease it twice, like when they first threaten, and then you keep waiting for it. So when it happens, it has to live up, and it does. I mean, it delivers.
It's Chekhov's singing Klingons.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they nail it. So I don't think there's any way not to have that be the best.
Yeah, it's How Would That Feel?
Yeah,
is the song. Yeah, I mean, I think for me the 2 strongest numbers are her song and Uhura's song.
Uhura's song, yeah.
And
I like Chapel's number too. That was a good one too.
Keep Us Connected. Yeah, I thought that was.
I thought the opening number was pretty good too.
I thought it was pretty good. I think the top 3 for me would be Uhura's, La'an's, and then Chapel's. But yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I'm gonna go with Keep Us Connected. I really like the 6/8 was a nice 6/8, meaning time signatures in a song.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of 1 2 3 4, it's 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. So when you're writing a score, right, you need to be you not only have to change keys and tempos, but also meters.
We got a waltz. We got a straight waltz in this episode.
Right, and that's how we keep. That's 1 2 3 1 2 3. That's how you keep your ear getting new things. You listen harder when there's a new flavor, and so I really like the 6/8 there. I love the it's a great hook, great performance. So yeah, for me, those 2 are going to be the ones that I'm going to listen to again for my own entertainment. I think let's hand out some STEM bolts, shall we?
You get some STEM bolts. Hell yeah, they are self-sealing. Here are some STEM bolts for you.
So here's the thing, Keith.
What is the thing, Meg?
I loved it. I had a great time. I had a ton of fun, which is what I think, for me, this show, I enjoy. Like in Deep Space Nine, I tend to like the dramatic, operatic episodes. For this show, I love the whimsy. I love the fun. We've butted heads about it a couple of times. I will say, my biggest criticism up front is just still, we've named this show wrong, right? We don't go anywhere. This is another episode of 2 seasons now. We're like, I think we've left the ship twice, maybe?
It should be called Feelings on a Ship.
Yeah. Strange New Show is actually a better title.
That's true. It is a strange new show, yes.
So that said, this is full of whimsy, full of fun. But another thing that this episode does better than other episodes of this show have done, because we have complained about genre episodes that are for the sake of genre, right? We've had horror episodes that are just for the sake of being horror episodes, to say we did it. And then there are other examples that I'm not pulling off the top of my head, or they lean too heavily on something else, or full on crib. Here, once again, it could be that, right? The premise could be the premise. It could be just we're going to do a musical episode, and it's going to be about doing a musical episode, and we're going to point at the fact that we're doing an episode. But they actually use the form as a storytelling device, and that device actually becomes part of the plot. In fact, it becomes the antagonist of the plot that we have to solve for, and end up using it at the musical to solve for the musical to fix it, which I think is really, really clever. The execution, for the most part, musically, full marks. Keith has pointed out some really astute and specific issues, but what I think they did incredibly well was most of the songs actually had something to say and furthered either the plot or furthered our understanding of a character in their current scenario in the ship. But more importantly, in this episode, does more than most episodes, letting us know emotionally where everyone is in the grand scheme, right? Right before our season finale, here's where everyone sits. Could have been a great season finale, actually, in many ways. And so I think that's awesome. Add to that, the songs are pretty catchy and pretty good.
Yeah.
You can't complain, right? Because there's a lot of them. It wasn't just like, here's a handful. There was a good number of songs.
No, they read a whole score. Yeah, they really did.
And they did a really great job, and this goes, Keith mentioned it, I'm glad he mentioned it, because it goes a long way. They did a really great job pouring some caulk on it, adding some reverb, and not making it sound completely false or fabricated via autotune. They really just like filled in the cracks, made everybody sound competent, did some favors for some folks that I thought was really kind of respectful, and even those people who clearly were out of their element were 100% committed. 100% committed. Nobody seemed to be winking and nodding at the camera. It just or cringing, which is really commendable, and it helps. I don't know how you could not have a great time with this episode, and it didn't feel disrespectful to people who were in the musical theater. It didn't feel disrespectful to Star Trek canon at large. You know, maybe that end scene, I think you had a little more criticism than I did, but still, but ultimately what they were trying to say was made sense, especially coming off last week, which threw into question some of the core principles of the vibe of Trek, right? So that all said, for me, it's a knock out of the park. What is my highest rank of the season?
Your highest rank of the season is a 95 for Those Old Scientists.
Which I really loved. I think I enjoyed this a little bit more, so I'm going to say 96 stem bolts.
Wow. Well, there you go. I mean, I think you really put your finger on the danger of this episode. And that is you have an opportunity to either show respect for both musical theater and Star Trek, to show disrespect for both musical theater and Star Trek, or pick one and disrespect the other. And that's a really dangerous thing to do. And I think that there are some Star Trek people who any amount of musical theater injected on it's disrespectful on its face. Conceptually, I disagree, because Star Trek does weird, crazy stuff all the time.
Right.
Like, Picard's a little kid, and now we're in upside down universe, whatever. Like, we do weird stuff all the time. That's part of Star Trek. That's the fun, right? So that part I couldn't care less about. But also for musical theater fans, are they going to be disrespectful to musical theater by making fun of it on Star Trek without showing, without respecting the art form? I think they did a good job with that too. I think they respected both of those art forms in this episode, and I think that is I think they were successful at both. And I speak as somebody who my life is musical theater, and I've devoted a fair amount of my time lately to Star Trek, so I feel pretty confident that this was respectful to both. It's interesting that you bring up last week and the finales of each episode, with Mbenga killing the guy, right? And sort of like some things can't be fixed, some things can't be, repaired. And the finale of this are so diametrically opposed to each other. Like, we are one, we can do anything, we're a whatever. It's a little jarring to have those be the thesis statements of both episodes back to back. But I think in general, this was very successful. I think I have my, I've mentioned my bones to pick musically about it. The only thing that's frustrating about that, it's not that it's so easy to do, right?
It's
what
difficult. It could have been. It's what it left on the vine.
Had they brought in a musical theater lyricist, could have cleaned that up in like 8 hours and made that perfect. And I think that it's totally doable. I understand it's difficult from the collaboration, and you've got agreements and like whatever.
What was the name of that band?
SpaceX Mafia? No. Space Letters to Cleo. That you could have paid me $500 and I'd do it uncredited to clean it up for you. Like, so yes, I think it loses a little bit there for me. But more than that, for the Star Trek of it all, I have a rewrite that I'd like to do.
Yes, I've been waiting for this.
For the explanation as to why we're doing this, right? The rift in space into a musical universe, that never has landed right with me. Like, I understand you're going to have a nonsense reason for it, and like, of course we are, whatever. But I thought that was particularly nonsense. Why would this rift in space be based on human musical theater from the 21st century? It's specific to the point of being ridiculous, and the rules don't make any sense, and it is really just, don't worry about it. But I think there's a better solution that would allow for the ridiculous of it to be done sort of with a little bit more intent and a little bit less unlikely. And that is, Star Trek has a long tradition of omnipotent beings with weird and capricious demands, i.e. Q. Why isn't Q the one causing them to do this? Or some entity similar to that? But why not just Q? Right? Q just like, hey, I found musical theater. I'm going to make you do musical theater till you die. And then they have to find a way to like break out, whatever. So you have some omnipotent being that has the power to do this. That's established in Star Trek. And then there's
established earlier this season. Didn't we do that with Mbenga's daughter? Wasn't there like a fairy creature who was like, let's create a storybook world?
Right. And like, why not have something with consciousness and agency force this on them? That would have made much more sense, because it's so far out of left field to have that be a random space anomaly. It doesn't make any sense.
We've had other random space anomalies just as weird in this show.
Sure, right, but it, like, the random space anomalies, like, they throw you into alternate universes without necessarily agency to it. They mess with time, they mess with evolution or whatever. Going into musical theater land is the capricious desire of something with consciousness, not a random happenstance. And I think had they had a cue or something like that stir this up, it would have, I think, justified a lot of the stuff that we didn't quite work. It didn't quite land right for me.
I don't hate that. I also would say, and I failed to mention this, the other thing that I think, and they did us even, they kind of left us out to dry in the musical episode, the original musical episode with Uhura as well. They made such a point, such a keen point to emphasize some structural the basics of how musical theater works and how it works as a storytelling device throughout the episode. Oh, they only sing when the emotional stakes reach a point where they have to sing. Oh, this is where we learn about XYZ. It would have been cool to see them use those rules in some sort of context in order to solve the problem. Yeah, I know it's like, oh, we need a finale number, but that one seems a little hack-eyed compared to where we could have gone with it, right?
Right. And like if we'd had, let's say Q, right? Let's say John Delancey is running around critiquing everybody's musical choices, like, oh, a reprise or whatever, and then like they find a way to turn the tables on him that like he's now trapped in his own musical theater world and he has to sing a song and he's like, hell with it, and shuts it all down. It seems more fun to me. So all of that said, that's a very long way of saying I actually really liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was very successful, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the music. I'll watch it again. I'll be happy to watch it again. Some of these tunes I'm going to go and listen to right now as soon as we're done talking. I don't think it's perfect. I have notes, obviously, but on the whole, I think as a wild swing and big risk, I thought it was a success. So it gets 90 self-sealing stem bolts from me.
You know, I'm really interested to talk with you next week after the finale when we kind of summarize what our thoughts are. Because I generally, for the most part, like the show. But I'm wondering if their emphasis on framing it as a show with what do you call it? It's episodic, right?
Episodic, yeah.
Did it any favors? Because it feels a bit to me, and we'll talk about it more next week, like it lacks an identity. It lacks a sort of unifying tonality, which they kind of excuse behind, well, that's because we're doing it, just like you can take these random swings because there's no overarching plot. And yet there are a bunch of arching storylines that they feel the need to previously on us every week and remind us of the stakes. So they are basically creating a serialized show with episodic thematic episodes, but yet I have a lot of thoughts. I can't wait to talk about it and when we kind of all wrap it up. It's like a show that is being forced to not know what it is what it feels like. But we'll talk more.
Yeah, well, we'll have to we'll do a check-in after next week's episode, Hegemony. So look out, folks, and that's going to be it for Strange New Worlds for a while, at least, with the strike going on, let alone off season. So we will see. But
interestingly, Keith, I was trying to find out like what letters to Cleo had, because it makes more sense. Like what you would think almost, if we're writing this episode, we need a popular pop. You would get Patrick and Paul, right? Like just like pull them out, have them greatest showman this episode, and let's call it a day, right? But interesting, I was wondering like what Paramount's connection to Letters to Cleo was. Like there must be some sort of connection, right? But there's not a lot of comment because the strike. There isn't a lot of press. There wasn't a press junket being able. But she was, however, Chang was able to talk about her album. So in the interview I'm reading here, she talked more about that, turns out.
Well, good for her.
Less strike.
Get those albums sold. All right. Well, we will talk about more. And don't worry. If you're like, wow, we only have one more episode of Strange New Shows. There's a lot of us talking on the internet. Don't worry about it. So you can find all of our shows above us here. You can also join us on patreon.com/K&M, where you get all of our regular shows, plus a bunch of other nonsense. It's really fun. You don't want to miss it out. Our social medias are here. I'm at Keith Varney and everything, and Mike is at MikeyI99 on everything. We will see you back here next week with Hegemony. Till then, this has been Strange New Show.
We watched Strange New Worlds. I thought we would do something singing together, but we're not. I'll hold a note. Keith, sing the note on top of it. No.
K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM.
K&M.
I am Dude.